Hello, everyone. This is Manisha from the Modulo podcast, and I am really happy to introduce to you Kathleen Cotter Clayton, who is the Vice President of Right Start Math. This is an interview I've been wanting to have for a really long time, so welcome, Kathleen.
Well, thank you, and thank you so much for having me here, Manisha. I appreciate it.
It's such a pleasure. And also, you are the daughter of Dr. Cotter, who founded Right Start Math, and I have a special connection to that because my mom is a Montessori teacher, and
Oh,
I'm
fun.
trying to live in her shoes. And
Yeah,
it's a very special connection between a mother and daughter and education, and I'm
yes,
really happy to talk to you. So
yes.
for all of you listening, I just want to say Right Start Math is one of our favorite programs. We are actually an affiliate with Right Start, so it's one of the programs we recommend the most in our curriculum planner. It's just a really beautifully designed, innovative, hands-on math curriculum. And we found it works incredibly well for children who are gifted, who have ADHD, dyscalculia, because of the whole multi-sensory approach and mastery-based approach that Right Start uses. They have levels instead of grades, so children can learn at their own pace. And it's one of those programs where I meet a certain family, and I know that Right Start is the only program that exists that is going to work for them. And I only wish it went up to 12th grade. I know it's in eighth grade, but I feel like it's a really important curriculum to be talking about when so much of the discourse is about AI tutors and digital learning apps. And, those definitely have their value and their place and their fit. But hands-on learning is so important. And so we really are going to dive in deep on that today.
Yes, and I totally agree with you on it on things being hands-on. I mean, think of a child like even like a 6 month old or a 1 year old. What do? They want to touch everything and they want to put it in their mouth. They want to experience it. They want to feel it. They want to taste
True.
it. They want to touch it. They want that. So why all of a sudden at age 4, 5, 6, when we start with math, everything is hands off? No, we need to touch it and feel it and work with it and see what does three mean? What happens if we have three of these and add three more? So I couldn't
Absolutely.
agree more. We need to be touching
Yes.
things.
I'm so glad you said that thing about putting it in your mouth because this is an idea around education I've really been trying to get out there is the idea of education being delicious. And
Yeah,
so much of it is
and
kind of
joyful.
dry and in the head. And how are we doing education back to our body? I mean, ultimately, we're doing math in the real world, not on a digital app. So that's
Right.
that's so great. So we're gonna get more into that. But I'm just wondering if you could share a little bit about the founding story of Right Start Math. What your mom was doing when she created this program, how she identified the need, and how it grew into this incredibly beloved program for
Yes.
homeschoolers and regular schoolers alike.
Yes. Well, it's fun because it did not she did not wake up one morning and say, I think I'm gonna make a math program. Rather, what happened is she is an electrical engineer. And so she's one of these smart math people. And her husband, my dad, is a mechanical engineer. So we've got two math minded people. They give birth to three children. I'm the first one because I was the first one. I was taught very traditionally because, you just, that's what you do. And, you give them worksheets and off they go and they memorize and moving on. My sister was pretty much the same. But when it got to my brother, and he's about 5.5 years younger than me, he was in third grade and he was really struggling. And
Mm.
I'm being a little bit dramatic here, but pretty much every day as he would go into math class, he would get sick, throw up. I mean, it was awful. Pick up your kid, pick up your kid, pick up your kid. It was not working. So they moved to a school that probably is considered the first charter school in the United States in Minnesota. And one of the things they did with that school is they said every parent who has a child here has to participate and help support this school. Well, because he's having difficulties in math, because she's a math minded person, she started to take some of the ideas that she had in her Montessori classroom and bring them into this charter school, and she started to create math card games to help the kids practice because worksheets
Mm.
wasn't working for my brother. So she created games, and somebody said, "These are really good. You should write this down." And she went, "What? Okay." And so that was actually the beginning of it. Then she started tutoring children with special needs, one of them, of course, being my brother, but she started tutoring them. And again, taking some of the Montessori things, if you're familiar with the Montessori black and white, or excuse me, the Montessori bead frame, the abacus that
Yes.
she developed, yes, is a derivative of that. So if you
Mm.
look at the Montessori bead frame, you look at we now call it the Cotter abacus, you can see how the Cotter abacus is influenced by the bead frame. And again, she's developing, how could you do this? How could you do that? Wrote them down. And that's actually all she intended to do. And then when she went back to school and got her master's in curriculum and instruction, taught grades 6, 7, and 8, and said, it was a great time of her life. It was also very difficult because she said, these guys are idiots. Not because they're stupid, but you can't be teaching math if you don't have your basics. So she went back to school again and got her PhD in mathematics education with an emphasis on brain research. Her doctoral dissertation was the Right Start Math program.
Wow.
Again, she did not mean to do this. She was just writing the one. She actually started with the first grade, or we call it level B today, the first edition. And it did so well in that environment. I mean, those kids, they were like twice as good as all the other kids by the end of the first grade year, based on what she was doing. They said that particular school said, we want more. So she wrote second grade, wrote third grade. She went back and wrote kindergarten, fourth grade, and I don't remember the exact order. But then again, she was done. And then we said, well, there's more to do. Then level G came in. Again, things were done. And then she said, but there's a better way to teach multiplication. And there's
Mm.
a better way to do this. And we have new brain research. And so we've got all these things. And that's where the second edition came in. So all of it was driven by need. It was not driven by her waking up and saying, you know, I think a math program, that's what I'm going to do. No, everything was driven by need and a better way to do things, which to me makes it the best because it's done for the right reasons and it's done for need and it solves a problem.
Wow. This is, yeah, I mean, it's so interesting because I'm very much in the tech startup world, and the process your mother took so intuitively was exactly what we're kind of always encouraging these young tech bros to push. Like,
Yeah.
don't come with an idea, come with a problem. And it makes me also think about the founder of Wild Learning, Rachel Tidd. She started Wild, still forget if it was Wild Math or Wild Reading she started first, but she had a very profoundly gifted son, and then a son with dyslexia who was having just a horrible
Mhm.
time in school. And so she was a special ed teacher. She didn't say, "Oh, I'm going to write a curriculum, sell it to thousands of families, and get wealthy." She just started building that and then adding on levels as
Right.
people needed it. I'm so intrigued too by this evolution of the Montessori bead frame because so many people treat Montessori like a religion that's set in stone, and I love how your mother kind of took the bead frame to this other level of the abacus.
Yeah.
Can you kind of maybe go into a little bit where she thought, in this modern age, an evolution was in order, and how if you could talk a little bit about that.
It wasn't so much that evolution was in order, it's that an evolution developed.
Hmm.
So it was okay, this is the Montessori program for those who are familiar with it, and you said you are, Manisha, but it's good. It's
Oh
really,
yeah.
really good. But you look and see what Dr. Montessori said. She said, and I don't remember the name of the book, but it's one of the books that she wrote. She said, and I'm paraphrasing horribly, she said that every great movement has to continue to grow with the times. So there
Yes.
there are some people that say that if Dr. Montessori didn't do it, we're not doing it. Okay, I understand that you're keeping it true and you're keeping it with her spirit, but we no longer ride horses to work. Well, most people, some people do. But, most people take a car or a bus or a train or some, we have advanced our methods, we have advanced our ways of doing things. So we need to keep true to the Montessori method and yet advance that there's better ways to do it. So, for example, Dr. Montessori did not know that I think it's 1 out of every 12 boys are color deficient, formerly known as colorblind.
Wow.
So you look at some of the Montessori materials, and if you're colorblind, this is going to be a challenge. Like with the beads, I forget what they call them, but the bead wires, the wire of two, the wire of three, the wire of four, wire
Yes.
of five, which many people have changed over to the colored rods. Again, if I'm colorblind or color deficient, as we now call it, if I'm color deficient, I've got shades of gray. And I'm supposed to remember that this light shade of gray plus the dark shade of gray equals the medium shade of gray, which is 3 plus 7 is 10. That's really weird. And so the colors don't work. And Dr. Montessori did not know that. We know
Yeah.
that now. We need to change that. So
Yep.
again, it wasn't a case of we needed to better Montessori. We need to take the things she did not know, and we just didn't know it at that point. We didn't have the research, and present it better. Just as we did from our original work to our first edition, Right Start, to our second edition. You look at the
Mm.
way, for example, multiplication is taught in our first edition, Bright Start Math. We teach it with skip counting, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. We now do it in second edition with area. So if you have 3 5s, you can see that there's 15 of them. It's area
I
rather than
love that.
counting.
That's so smart. So how does that work? What's the process that you have in place to make sure that Right Start continues evolving in the right way?
Uh, that's a very good question. I
Do
mean,
you just lock your mom in a room and make sure she's constantly editing?
well, the books are it, but she's
Mm.
constantly reading. And this is actually, and I've got a kind of advanced copy here. We actually have a new book. It's called,
Ooh,
yes,
here we
just a
go.
second. It's got a
Okay,
blur on here. You can't quite see it. There we go. It's called Start
fantastic.
Math Right, The Journey to Mathematics Excellence. And this is basically, and this is not out yet. This is an advanced copy. We have them, we hopefully will have them by about mid-April in-house. They are published, they're being shipped right now. But what she did with this book is she took her ideas, her philosophies from Right Start Math, and looked at what's out there. What's the research? Why is this? What's the history? How are we doing this? Why did we get to the spot that we're at? Why is it good? Why is it not good? And she put this all together in this book. This book is amazing. It has
Mm.
addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, fractions, number sense, manipulatives, teaching math, all sorts of different topics in here. And you can see it's a pretty thick
It's a
book.
hefty one, yes.
Yeah, it's actually, let me look here. I think it's like 320 pages. And it's neat because we show some of the joy and the happiness in math. So it's not just a 3 times 5 is 15, a quick memorize it. It's look at this and how this makes this pattern and the beauty and how this puts together with that. And it brings like the subtitle is, it's the journey to mathematics excellence. It brings the joy and the beauty into it. So to kind of answer, go back and answer your question, she's constantly researching, she's constantly looking, she's constantly seeing what others are doing. I
Mm.
don't know exactly, but I would say she spends at least an hour, probably 2 hours a day, just reading this article and reading that article and connecting with this person and sharing ideas. And
Wow.
like we all know, when you get together with some friends, whether it's your mom friends or your education friends or, just even sitting down with your family, you talk about stuff. It's like, oh, that's a really good idea. Oh, we should. You have this synergy, and
Mm.
that's what she's always doing. She's always looking for those new ideas so that, oh, we could do this. Oh, we could do that. Oh, look at this. So
Wonderful.
yeah,
And Kathleen, where do you come in into all of this? What is your role at Right Start Math?
It's kind of funny because at first I was just kind of whatever she needed done, I did. Because she's always interested in the who, what, and where's, she kind of missed the marketing point. And so I kind
Mm,
of came in and started doing more marketing, sharing, working with our affiliates, doing this and building that. What I've morphed into now is we have a new series called Right Start Tutoring. And so I've been taking stuff from the Right Start Math program, pulling it into the Right Start Tutoring. So I'm kind of rewriting and reassembling some things. And so what the Right Start Tutoring does, one of the first of the series is called Number Sense. And so what it is we take addition and subtraction, start from the very beginning, like what does three mean? Working with the subitizing, the recognizing of quantities, 3 plus 3. So it's not the symbol three, it's the
yes.
quantity of three. So we start with that and we go all the way to simple adding, simple subtracting, 4-digit adding, 4-digit subtracting. But we assume that these kids going into the Right Start tutoring program are tutoring because they're late. So we assume these kids are 2 years or more behind where they should be. Because if they're on task, they need to go to Right Start Math. If they're 1 year behind, they can still go to Right Start Math, they'll be fine. But if they're 2 years or more behind where they should be, so let's say I've got a 10-year-old who's struggling with addition. A 10-year-old should have their addition aligned or ready to go. They
Yes.
should have this. And they don't have time to go back to do first grade work. So we put them in the tutoring program. So again, we assume these kids are 2 years or more behind where they should be. So we're only taking addition and subtraction and we're focusing on that. And here's the cool thing, rather than taking a year to do it, we do it in 50 lessons and they do no worksheets. They only play card games.
I love that. And I just think it's such a brilliant idea because often our only solution for these kids is to make them repeat an entire year. But it seems like what you've really zoned in on in this program is what are the typical foundations that kids are missing that's
Yeah.
preventing them? How did they get, it's like they're on a train and all of a sudden their train just stopped. And they really need to kind of get a shortcut back to the main train line so they can zoom ahead at their own rate. And so that doesn't mean teaching every single thing again. It means teaching those key things that are preventing them from moving ahead on
Right.
those rails. Wonderful.
Right.
So is that a program where you're actually matching students with tutors, or is it more of a guide for tutors to use with the
It's a guide
students?
for an adult or a very motivated young person, but for an adult to teach a child or to teach a student, or again, a very, very motivated person to do it on their own, whether they be 38, 19, or maybe you've got a 12-year-old who's got enough reading and responsibility that I'm going to read this and do my own. We don't expect a 12-year-old to do it on their own, but I have had a 19-year-old do it. And even myself, as I was going through and writing it, because remember, I was taught very traditionally. I know the
Mm.
Right Start Math program. I helped Dr. Cotter write the entire second edition. I did some with the first edition, but much more with the second edition. But even as I was going through and working with stuff with the tutoring, I was amazed at what I learned. It was
Oh,
just
it's so
so cool.
good. The
It
best
was,
way to teach is the best way to
yeah,
learn is to teach. That's they call the final
exactly.
stage of mastery.
Exactly.
Well, I'm so excited about this, and I don't know how it slipped my radar because as soon as we get off this call, I'm going to get this tutoring program for our because Modulo matches tutors with students and gives them curriculum to use, and it's very
Yeah.
hard to find a curriculum that a young person can guide or so let's talk a little bit about that. This question, I'm sure you've heard it before, and so many parents lack the confidence to teach their own children,
Yeah.
and especially when it comes to math. And I always tell parents to make sure they get the teacher's manual when they're
Yeah.
using Right Start Math. So can you perhaps, I don't know what angle you want to take, maybe how you address the fear of these parents who are afraid that they're not good at math enough to teach their kids, or how Right Start handles, is because Right Start is really designed to support any parent or caregiver helping guide their children along in
Yeah.
math. So if you could address that, I would
Yeah.
love it.
First, I'm gonna go back and check something you said. You with the Right Start Math program, you have to have the teacher's manual because like
Yes.
with level B, right? Level
It's
B,
not
first grade,
optional.
this is
Yes.
not because level B, first grade, you're only going to be doing a worksheet a week. So we're teaching for 5 days and then you're only doing one worksheet. So if you only have the worksheet, this is not going to make sense. And even if you get to the higher levels where you have a worksheet, probably 4 or 5 times a week, I was going to say a day, but not a day, 4 to 5 times a week, you still need that lesson plan. But here's the cool thing for somebody who is unfamiliar, I'm nervous, I don't know what to do. I hear the word math, it's a 4-letter word. I feel very faint. I'm not comfortable. If you can read, you can do this. So in there, it will say, ask colon, and then it'll tell you what to ask. What is 3 plus 3? Question mark. And then it'll give you the answer. So if you're having a rough day, gosh, I don't know what 3 plus 3 is, it'll give you the answer.
I don't know where my feet are, or my hands are. It happens. Yeah.
Exactly. So basically, if you can read, you can do this. Now, some
Beautiful.
people are like, okay, I still don't get this. Or maybe my kid gets it, but I don't understand this. I just had a question the other day. We were talking about a rhombus. Um, and a rhombus is a four-sided shape that has equal sides, but not necessarily equal angles. So usually we think of a rhombus as like a diamond. It's got equal sides, the angles, you got the top tippy points very sharp, the side points are very wide. So you've got this diamond shaped thing. That is a rhombus. But listen to the definition. Equal sides, and it may or may not have the same angles. So if it possibly does have the same angles, a square is also a rhombus. It has equal sides and it does have equal angles. So my kid gets it. And I'm like,
Right.
I don't get it. I don't get it. I always thought a rhombus was that pointy diamondy thing. I don't get it. Why is a square? And so then what you do in that case, we have a couple of avenues for you, how you, the parent, either help explain it to your child or explain it to yourself, whatever's necessary. But we've got overview videos. And in the older, actually, it was just this about 6 months ago, I put QR codes in all of our lesson books that link you to overview videos. And what they are is we had somebody go through and give 4 lesson segments and talk about them. So in lesson, 6, 7, 8, 9, here's what we're doing. Here's what a rhombus is, talking about these different things. And then you'll have the next overview videos. It'll be the next 4, the next 4, the next 4, the next 4. So it's kind of like these overview videos. It's Debbie, Rachel, or Teresa who do them. They kind of become like your new best friend. They'll just kind of help you walk through. It's not something for your kid to watch. It's to help you teach it.
The
If
rhombus
that
lady.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes. So if that doesn't work for you, then you call us up and you go, okay, I need to talk to somebody. Kathleen, how are we doing this? Okay, what is a rhombus? And I'm going to work through it with you. And with
Hmm.
our customer service, we don't go, oh, Manisha, you called us 4 times this week. I can't talk to you anymore.
You
If
don't know
you
what a
need to
rhombus
call
is.
me,
What's your problem? I already told you
yeah,
twice.
help
It's a
me.
square sometimes.
Yes. But if you
Goodbye.
need to call me,
Yeah.
right. And if you need to call me 14 times in one day, we will talk to you. So we will help you help your child be everything they need to be. So it's not a case of, oh, yay, we sold something, that we're out of here. No, it's okay, good. We're part of the team. You're part of the Right Start family. What can we do to help you help your child be the best that they can be?
I
Go.
love that. I love that, Kathleen. And I think I mean, that's so much more than a lot of schools are able to provide their
Mhm.
parents. And I
Mhm.
think that parents really need those partners in learning. I mean, I wasn't even aware, and I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
So, okay. Oh my gosh, there's so much goodness here. Let's talk a little bit about the abacus because it is, in a way, maybe the heart and soul
It is.
of the company. But tell us about it, what makes it special, and
Well,
anything you want to add.
I've got one here, and it's actually, let me pull it up.
You came prepared for the show
I
and
came
tell
prepared.
portion.
I have to keep them on my desk. Actually, I probably shouldn't tell you, but I'm going to tell you this. We don't have many left, but we have different colored abacuses. This is the normal colored abacus. And actually, let me how
Lovely.
do I get my blur off of here so we can see this?
I can see it pretty well.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
I
can see
think
it
you're
well now.
good.
Okay, if I put it right here, I think we can see it. But this is the abacus. This is actually a slightly different one. This has a slightly bluer frame, but you've got the beads so that if let me do it this way, so this is clear. Everything that goes to the logo is clear. So if I put on 7, I can
Here,
see
hold it
that
just a little bit. Oh, but
yep,
that's
there we
good.
go.
Yes.
I can see that it's 7 because I have 5 and 2 more, just like my hands if I put on 7.
Mm,
So here's my blue, here's my yellow. So when I put on 7, you can see that you have 7, 5, and 2 more is 7. I don't have to count it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I can see that it's 7. Now here's what's neat. If I do 7 and 6 more, when I add these two together, you can see that you have 10 and 3 more. So the answer is 13.
brilliant. I love
Isn't that
that. It's so
cool?
good. It's so
You
helpful.
can't
I mean,
do that with anything else.
and even, I mean, I love Montessori. I love all of the colors and everything, but I think, with children having two options is a very helpful way to
Right.
distinguish different components. And so it's so great. Amazing. So let's
I'm just
talk
gonna,
about,
I'm gonna interrupt a quick
yes,
second because I started
please
to say
interrupt away. That's what this
different
show is
colors.
about.
Look at this.
Whoa, now the colors. Oh my gosh, I want to eat that. Wow.
I know. And we have still some in-house. I want to say I think we have like green and yellow with a black frame, and they're different ones, and we make sure that they always have a contrast between dark and light. Because again, if I don't know that my child, usually it's sons, can be daughters, but usually if I don't know that my son is colorblind, I want to make sure that he still can see the difference between the dark and the light. And that's actually why our abacus, our blue and our traditional ones are blue and yellow, because you can see this.
Wonderful. Are
Yeah.
you, I don't want to go into a topic that you don't feel confident about.
No,
Are
that's
you
fine.
able to talk a little bit about dyscalculia and how the program addresses children with that learning disability?
Yes, and I that's not my area of expertise. We actually have a specialist, a learning specialist, Rachel Anderson. And if you, the audience, if somebody there has somebody with a problem, Rachel's your person. She can walk through it with you. But what happens with dyscalculia, however you pronounce it, um, yeah, nothing like let's have a really
Let's have a competition.
well, it's funny because let's have a problem with kids and let's give it the weirdest name.
Yeah.
Like who can even pronounce it, much less spell it? Or like another one is dyslexia. Really? DYXL, whatever.
For
Give them
kids who don't know how to read, like, let's
yeah,
give them a word that
exactly.
no one
Let's give
can
them a
spell
word
or
that
read.
yeah, let's give them a word that just shoots them right off the edge of the cliff.
Yeah.
Anyhow, with dyscalculia, however you pronounce it, what the problem with that is that children a lot of times they see that symbol 3 and it's a symbol and they don't understand that it's a quantity 3. So with us relying more on the abacus 3, I can see that it's 3. I don't have to worry about the symbol. I can see the 3. And when I add in +2, I can see the 5. Now, how do I write 5? And that's where we start to end up with a lot more problems as to how do we write it. But if I've got a young one, instead of gripping my pencil and my paper and working with it, let's do it on a dry erase board. Let's do it in the sand. Let's put rice on the table and have them trace it through the rice and work with their
Beautiful.
numbers that way. So we give you different ways to do it to help with it. And again, if there's something in the curriculum that's still not working with your child, they're still having some their own personal situations, call us. We'll help you work through that. What we always say with our customer service, you call, you're going to be talking to people who've used the program. If you stump them, you come to me. If you stump me, you go to Dr. Cotter. Now, we'll put Rachel in there instead of me if she can do a better job, but we will help you and we will get you to Dr. Cotter if need be. We'll help you with that.
Beautiful. So let's segue a little bit into math as a concept that children learn in school. And one of the reasons that I chose Right Start Math as a program to highlight on Modulo is because, based on my research, you are really focused on conceptual understanding rather than procedural, which is a lot of school is just
Yeah,
about memorizing
yeah,
formulas and certain ways to do
yep,
things, which is why it's so hard for parents to support their kids if they don't know
right.
what that particular method is. And so you're really focused on serving the child. And what's exciting is that even though you're not trying to meet school standards, most of the children that I've seen go through Right Start also are able to do really well on these standardized tests because they have
Yeah.
those concepts. So in our changing world where people need financial literacy, they need to maybe learn how to be AI engineers. I mean, how do you determine what math concepts are really important for children to learn for the future?
That's a very good question, and it's kind of I'm glad you asked this because to me, they don't have to know 8 times 7, but they have to know how to think it through. So I could do 8 times 7 because, like for me, again, I was taught very traditionally. I honestly don't know what 8 times 7 is, but I know that 4 times 7.
56.
Are you stopping and thinking what the answer
I think
is?
it's 56, but I'm not sure.
It's
I have
56. Now, here's
to.
how I do it here, and this is one of the ways we teach kids. 8 times 7, no idea. 4 times 7 is 28. 28 times 2, or 28 doubled, is 56. So I've got a way to figure it out because, like with AI, I mean, that's been out for, well, it's really hitting mainstream now, but it's been out for, I mean, kind of ish, for what, about 5-ish years? I mean, we've been using it other ways, but it's
Yeah.
becoming more mainstream.
There's
But
awareness that it's the future of work, right?
yeah,
Like, yeah.
and right. And the thing is with it is when I was a child, AI stood for something totally different, which is another whole conversation. But you're stopping thinking, what does she mean? Don't worry about it. Anyhow,
I won't.
but it meant something different. And so you can't teach the kids the knowledge. You have to teach them how to find the knowledge, how to think through the knowledge. Because AI right now, we're like, ooh. But the thing is when my grandson, who's 13 down to 2.5, depending on which one I'm looking at, when Milo, the 2.5-year-old, is my age, AI is going to be such old news and it's going to be something else. I
Absolutely.
can't teach
I couldn't
him,
agree more.
right. I
Yes.
can't teach him what he's going to encounter in 20 years from now. But I can teach him how to think, how to be logical, how to find, how to search, how to calculate, how to find. That's what our power is with Right Start Math. So it's not just a 8 times 7 is 56 because I said so. It's how can you figure it out?
Yes, exactly. I mean, and I think even beyond that, what you're alluding to is that you're actually developing processes inside of a child's brain. By using
Yeah.
those type of problem skills, their brain becomes more plastic, more ability, and it's actually a biological, physical
It
thing
is.
beyond just this is how to think, memorize these
Right.
three thinking
Right.
processes. Yes, I love
Do
that.
you
Oh my gosh,
remember?
so good.
Yes. Do you remember learning about trigonometry? Sine,
Vaguely, I
cosine,
had a
tangent?
really wonderful calculus teacher, and so I just remember the joy of being in that class.
Okay.
And yeah,
I
she
did
made it
not have
fun.
I did not have that teacher. I had the teacher who created horror, and I thought that trigonometry, sine, cosine, and tangent were things that they developed to torture me, and they did a lovely job. It was awful. It was awful. We teach it in our level H, which is our middle school program. And you're like, wait a minute, you just said we're teaching trigonometry to middle school kids? Yes. And when I saw how that was taught, I'm like, oh, oh, get out. That's what trigonometry is? Oh, oh, this is awesome. And we have an online class for levels G and H. For those who are interested, you can do it on your own. But levels
Cool.
G and H have an online class, and it is amazing. It almost brings tears to my eyes when we're teaching it and watching these kids using trig and using things in ways that I would have never thought of. Because again, I'm better now, but I was a drill and kill kid. Oh, that's not how you do that. But to watch these kids, in a classroom of 10 kids, watch them all come up with the same answer 10 different ways just brings tears to your eyes to know that these kids are going to make a difference in the world. These
Oh,
kids are going to go places. That's what Right Start Math does. So we don't teach that, okay, cosine, sine, whatever, who cares? I don't know what it is. We teach you how to use it, what is it, how to figure it out, and so you can turn it around and keep working with it. That's what Right Start does.
marvelous. I love that. All right, so let's talk about the high school portion when Right
Yeah.
Start ends. We have some students who are just profoundly gifted and they have a parent who's a
Mhm.
mathematician and they, maybe 8 or 9 years old and they've whipped through the entire curriculum.
Yep.
What
Yep.
do they do next? And especially, touching upon the point of asynchronous development, how do they
Mhm.
find a program that can be fun for a kid but also
Right.
keep them learning?
Right.
What
Very interesting question because sometimes people say, oh, you can't be doing algebra until your brain is developed properly. Well, your brain is going to develop if you feed it the right food. So if I've taught Right Start Math levels A through H, I happen to be 9 years old, you can at age 10 start algebra. Go for it.
hmm. And
There's
what
no,
program would you use for
well,
that?
we recommend five. And the five that we recommend, the top two are video text algebra. Now there's two versions of video text. There's the new one that Memoria Press has out. We like the old original one where with Tom Clark. And I'm not saying the other one's bad. I'm just saying we prefer the the video text algebra with Tom Clark. So again, no shade on anybody else, just that we prefer this one. So it's the video text and Mr. D's math, and then we like art of problem solving, Jacobs, and Forrester's. Now, are there other ones out there? Probably. These are just the ones we are comfortable recommending for algebra. So you look at the five, you look at your kid, and you see, okay, that one, yeah, that's definitely not going to work. This one, that's a maybe, that's a maybe. Let's try, yeah, those two aren't going to work. Okay, so I'm down to two. So I can't say, thou shalt do the following because I don't know your kid. I don't know their strengths. I don't know their age. I don't know. There's so much I don't know, but I can give you these five. You know what's best for your child. You pick, but we can
Yes,
give you these five.
absolutely. So I'm kind of just, I don't know, it's been a conundrum for me for a while because along with Right Start, probably my favorite digital program is Beast Academy Online.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also owned by the Art of Problem Solving. And then
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
after eighth grade in Beast Academy Online, you can go into Art of Problem Solving, which is a more
Yep.
textbook based approach. And
Yep.
so I'm just wondering, like, what happens at ninth grade that all my favorite math programs suddenly stop? And is it, what's going on? I mean, have you gotten, yeah, what's
Well,
up with that? Why don't you
well,
build Right Start ninth
yes. Okay.
grade?
And actually, it's funny because we've been asked a lot. Why did we stop here? And basically, the reason we stopped at middle school before high school is one because Dr. Cotter's area of expertise is the elementary
Hmm.
and middle school. That's where she shines, given her Montessori background, given the work that she's done. That's where she shines. But she probably would have continued. Now, this is way back. This is so we have to kind of go back about 20 years. She didn't because Tom Clark with video text did exactly what she would have done.
Okay.
So why
Okay.
would we do what's already done? And if you've ever have a chance to talk to Tom Clark, he's still around. If you have a chance to talk with Tom Clark and you have a chance to talk with Dr. Cotter, which I think Manisha, you're going to have her on as a podcast coming
Can't
up
wait.
sometime.
Yes.
But if you have a chance to talk to the two of them, they're like twins separated at birth.
Wow.
They tell the stupid same math jokes. They approach things the same way. They approach with understanding. The whys, not just memorize it. It's why, how come, what if. Let's do this. Let's try that. That didn't work. Why not? So they approach with the understanding. And so that's
Hmm.
the main reason why we never went beyond, because we could have. I mean, she's bright enough,
Sure.
obviously, that she could have. But again, to what avail? He had already done what we would have done. So why
Yes.
should
Yeah.
we do it?
I think that's a
So,
great reason not to do
yeah.
it. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like there's also a certain kind of change that happens between eighth grade and ninth grade in the regular curriculum. So we have this almost natural flow, like the mastery based learning, starting with
Mhm.
multiplication, addition, going up to algebra. It seems like you guys are already doing a little bit of calculus with your cosine, and then for me, I mean, it was a long time ago, but high school felt a little bit random, like pre-algebra, algebra, geometry, then calculus. It just seemed kind of, it seemed like that thread had been lost a little bit. And so I'm kind of, maybe a parent kind of after eighth grade might want to start taking some college classes or something, but how do you keep that mastery based thing happening after eighth grade? Or maybe should you just start working on projects that require math? I'd just be curious if
Well,
you have a.
we we start to weave in algebra in level C, second grade.
Yeah.
And by the time they're hitting levels F, G, and H, they're doing algebra. So when our kids go into algebra, there's really nothing new happening. It's just we're not doing it on the abacus. And the abacus, let me back up. The abacus, we use it heavy in levels A and B, C, D, E, and F. It's more, we're using it, but we're kind of moving away from it. By the time you get to G and H, there's no abacus to be had because
Yeah.
at that point you have your basics. Now we're
Sure.
exploring actually using geometry tools. So we're becoming more and more abstract. So when you get to the algebra component, whatever program you use, it is going to be more abstract because I've already built the concrete. Now I can
Yeah.
go into the abstract. So Tom Clark has an interesting take on the because normally you do algebra 1 geometry, algebra 2, and then you've got a calculus with a trig or something of that sort. His take on it, and I think this is very interesting, is that we do algebra 1, then geometry, because now you're starting your college testing, your ACTs,
Mm-hmm.
your SATs, and then you do algebra 2. He says
Mm-hmm.
that's ridiculous. Why not just do, I don't know, algebra 1 and 2, and then go do geometry? And that's one thing we like about the video text program is because it does algebra 1 and 2 during that initial time, geometry, then you're still in line for your college testing if that's where you're aiming at.
Yeah,
And then you can
absolutely.
keep going. But another
Interesting.
thing you said kind of made me think. It seems random, like you said, that it's like we scamper around. Well, there's actually 200 branches of mathematics. And people are like, excuse me. There's arithmetic, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. There's algebra. Okay, that's not a surprise. There's geometry. Okay, that's three. But then there's things like fractals. There's statistics. There's, again, right now, of course, I can't think of any of them. There's analytical math. There's actually a branch of math called recreational math. It's like, ooh, that's kind of an oxymoron to put those two words together. But like Sudoku is really math. I was doing a project last night, just kind of a random project, and I was talking with Dr. Cotter, and she said, "Oh, that's math." I said, "Well, no, it's not. It's kind of just a logic problem I'm working through." And she said, "That's math." Fine, Mom, it's math.
You're still having this conversation. Wow.
But
Oh
it's,
my
but
goodness.
it's
So,
fun. It's fun to see
yeah.
that again. It feels random, but it's not because it's all still math. It may not be arithmetic, or it's just algebra, but it really does weave it all in. And that's the one thing I love about Right Start is we weave all of them in together. So it's not just multiplication, not just this. It's not just we weave them all in together. And so you see how they're all interconnected.
Yes. Oh, fantastic. Let's talk a little bit about this question of when to start. I mean, I've worked with all kinds of families, and most people in our community really just want their children to love learning. But I
Hmm.
have come across a couple parents who seem to have more of a vested interest in raising a child prodigy. And the moment their kid turns two, they're looking for math resources. And there seems to be an idea, which I think is somewhat of a misconception, that if you start math earlier, you're going to be much better at it later on in life. So if your kid is learning addition and multiplication at age two, they're going to be better further along. Could you address your feelings around that, and when would be the ideal time to start, or how, because children's brains develop differently, and how to kind of
Right.
assess, all right, my child is ready to begin Right Start Math.
That's very interesting because you have, as you said, some people who want to start at age 2. And you have some people who are like, well, they're not really ready till they're like 7, 8, 9. It really depends upon the child. It's like potty training. Those most of us have had kids. A girl will potty train about a year before a boy, and you can't take a 1-year old and potty train. Now, some of you are going, I did it. Okay, but probably because you were potty trained. You were trained to potty that child rather than the child indicating. And again, there's always exceptions, so no shade on anybody who's having that, but most of the time it's the parent who's just trying to anticipate if you've got a real young one who's potty trained. But most girls will potty train about 18 months to 24 months. Most boys 24 to 40, well, 2 years to about 3 years, somewhere in there. That's kind of the norm. Again, you can have them on either side. But if you have a child, I had a child who, not a child, I had a friend who had a child who was 6 years old and still was not nighttime potty trained. Does that mean that that child is late? No, it just means she had a small bladder.
There you go.
Right. So the thing is you can't really say we have to do this because then, I mean, by the time the kid usually goes to gets off and goes to college or gets married, they are potty trained. They will get it. It's just a matter
And
of
they're
when.
just as well potty trained as the child who
Exactly.
learned when they were
Right.
1 years old
Right.
using the infant potty training method. Yeah, I was
Right.
I was a very slow walker. I think maybe around age 2 or something. And
Yeah.
my mom just didn't care at all. And now I love to walk 4 or 5 hours
I
a
was just
day.
saying, look
It's
at you walking.
I'm a power walker.
Right.
Yes.
And
But
so
do you think, yeah, I mean, I'm just wondering because what I've read in the research I've read is that the child's brain isn't capable of developing certain, like, of understanding certain abstract concepts, and that age doesn't hit the same for every child. But if you're trying to kind of force a child to learn abstract concepts that their brain hasn't developed the capacity to solve yet, it can be more detrimental than helpful to their learning.
well, if you learn 3 times 3 is 9, and I don't know what it means, I can just chant it. That's harder once you know the kind of the answer, the rule, to go back and understand what does 3 times 3. It's three times. Okay, there's 3, 6, 9. Okay, so I can see that there's 9 there. To have to understand when I already know the rule is harder.
Mm.
And every child is going to be different. We all know you have that precocious 1.5, 2-year old that wants to start doing adding because they're curious, they're excited, they want to learn. Go with that child. But if you have a 7-year old that's not seeming to be interested in starting, you can still start to set things up with them. Here I've got 2 apple slices and 2 more apple slices. You can see that you have 4 apple slices. So you can feed the child's natural inclination, and you can also put them in an environment that will foster that.
Absolutely. So would you
So it's
say, I mean,
kind of
how
a
would you
both.
say if a family is trying to decide if it's the right time to start Right Start, when's the right time for the Right Start?
It depends on the child. I know probably right now, probably about 15 to 20 2.5-year olds who are using our level A. Now, they're
Cool.
obviously not doing a lesson a day. They may be only doing a paragraph a day. Or maybe some kid is just gobbling it up. And then 2 weeks later, he's like, I'm not doing any. That's fine. He's 2.5. It's going to take him maybe a couple years to get through it. But again, if you've got that kid who's showing the signs, back to your learning how to walk, you've got a kid who's wanting to learn, whether it be math or learning to walk or potty training, they're encourage them, support them, provide them environments to practice walking, to practice doing their math, give them that environment.
Hmm. What might be a sign that a child is starting to get interested in math? You mentioned apples.
You can do apples. One thing that my mom, Dr. Cotter, did is and I even remember this as a child, whenever we had orange or apple slices, she would always lay them out two by two. So two, four, six, eight. Then you'd eat one and you'd only have an odd number, seven. You eat another. Now you have an even number, six. You eat another one. You have an odd number, five. And so you don't have to count one, two, three, four, five. You can see that there's five.
Mm,
Babies, and this was a research thing, babies at all of a sudden my brain left me. I think it's 5 months. Sorry. All of a sudden I was like, what number? Babies at 5 months of age can subitize up to three. They can recognize quantities up to three at 5 months of age. They don't even have a
wow.
word for it yet. So some of you are going, right, Kathleen, whatever. Well, what they did, let me give you just a quick synopsis of what the
Please.
research was. A baby will look at something unexpected longer. So like if dad, like you've seen all these videos where dad shaves his beard, the baby freaks out because it's unexpected. They'll look at it longer and they know it's different. So what they did based on that premise, what they did is they showed the baby two teddy bears, put it behind a screen, brought in a third teddy bear, put it behind the screen, and what do I expect to see behind my screen? Three teddy bears. Brought the screen down. The baby looked at it, saw three, and went like, ah, yeah, whatever. It's what I expected to see. They did it again. Two
Mm,
teddy bears behind the screen. Third teddy bear, put it behind the screen. But behind the screen, they changed it. And instead of having three, when they brought the screen down, it was only one. And the baby would look at it significantly longer, like, whoa, whoa,
wow.
what? Where's the rest of my teddy bears? There's supposed to be three. And again, they don't have the words, but they know that two and never saw the three together until
Yes,
the end.
yes.
But they knew that
Fantastic.
so from there. And they said that then some of the brighter babies can do it up to five.
I love that.
And you
And
can
I think,
actually go to it's
wow,
Karen Wynn, WYNN,
I'll take that. Yeah, we'll take a look at
Karen
that.
Wynn. She is the one who is doing this research. So if you're in the North Carolina area and you want to tag up with her, she can go do that with your kid and see
Incredible.
where they're at. So back to when to start. They've got this at 5 months.
Wow,
So
amazing.
you can do it now. So it's not a case of can your kid write the numeral two? It's how old are you? I'm two. How old are you? I'm four. How old are you? I'm five. Can you show me? Okay, are you ready? Get your hands ready. Can you show me six? And if the child is unfamiliar or slower with it, I'm going to be really fast and show them six. Once they get good at it, like my 5-year-old granddaughter now, I'll just ask her, okay, Emma, ready? Can you show me six? She's got six. So I'll slow down. So she'll show me six and I'll slow down. So I'm mirroring her instead of her mirroring me. So initially, just work with your kids, the numbers 1 through 10. They need to know that this number is called nine. They can see the quantity, but they need to know it's called nine. They don't need to write
Absolutely.
it. They don't need the symbol. They just need to know what it's called.
Yes, I mean, there's so many ways that parents can work with their kids. And I also encourage families to kind of take the signals from their own child. When
Yeah,
a child starts asking questions like, why is my brother bigger than
yeah,
me?
right.
And something as simple as that, or, there's ways that if you're listening, you can start seeing a curiosity
Yes.
developing around mathematics. And I
And
think,
feed it.
and the pace is really important too, just because I think, some parents might say like, all right, first day of five, now how many do I have? How many? How many? You know this, you know this, you
Yeah,
know this, instead of
right,
that patient waiting, and maybe it's
right,
not today. And this
right.
idea of it can be one sentence a day, one paragraph a day. I mean, following your child's pace really pays off in terms of speed. When you rush, it really slows things
Yes,
down,
yeah.
So that's if you can kind of get into that rhythm, that's
And
good.
you can weave it into everyday life. So a wee little one, how many shoes do you have? Two. They don't have to count one, two. They can see they have two shoes. How many socks do you have? Oh, now you got your brother's socks. How many socks do you have now? Oh, you have four. As they get older, one thing I did with my kids, and I had 4 kids in 5 years, so it was quite chaotic for a while there.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know. Anyhow, it took us 8 years to figure out how to make babies, and we had a medical intervention to stop it. But anyhow, um, so
Good
what
for
we
you.
so what we ended up doing is to kind of practice their math facts. And it was just a fun game that we played. The kids loved it. I ended up hating it because I had to keep thinking about it. But I say, okay, take your age. So let's say that they're 5, add 2, add 3 more, divide it by 2. And so in my head, I'm thinking, okay, I'm at 5 right now. Subtract 2. And we'd go through and I'd do these things, multiply it or square it. My kid's like, what do you mean by square? Well, 3 squared is 9. Okay, 9. Eat that many bites of broccoli. Do me, do me, do me. Oh my gosh. Okay, so you're 6. And so they loved doing this. Another game that we
Mm.
play quite frequently is, again, having a large family and dogs and all sorts of stuff. I would I would say, okay, how many shoes are under the table? How many feet are under the table? Oh, look, the dog's half in and out. Ha ha, you missed that one. I loved it when my dad would come because he's an amputee. And so he lost his leg as early on as a child. So we'd ask the question, how many toes are under the table? Ha ha, Grandpa Bear -5.
That's great. It makes it personal and emotional. And
Well,
wow.
and it also makes it fun because in our culture, we're very good at playing with words.
Mm.
Different meanings of words or different, surprising, a lot of our jokes have to do
Puns and
with
yeah.
puns, right? We play with words. How often do we play with numbers? We really don't. So
Mm.
find a
Yeah.
way to incorporate it in with your family. Another one that I would do is we lived in a very rural area when the kids were little. And so to drive anywhere, like our nearest stoplight was 45 minutes away. So I'd have the kids say, okay, we need to be at here at this time. What time do we need to leave? Please add in 15 minutes because we need to fill gas.
Yeah.
What time are
Yeah.
we leaving? What time
Absolutely.
do
And
we
you're
have to get
just
our shoes on?
right. You're
And
just
so
teaching them to
now,
think in terms of
exactly,
mathematical way.
right.
So interesting. So when I first discovered Right Start, it was very early on in Modulo, and a parent who is like very, very successful tech entrepreneur, genius level guy, has just started homeschooling and feels like I don't know what the heck I'm doing here,
Yeah.
and kind of I don't even know why bought Right Start Math for his 5-year-old, and he calls me up. He's like, Manisha, my son just spent 11 hours doing math on Saturday just because he loved it so much. And so, I'm just curious, the fun factor is a really important criteria when we vet curriculum because so often kids are forced to do homework
Yes.
that they don't enjoy.
And that's
And
criminal.
and yeah, it's critical, but it's also very ineffective. And when
Yes.
parents ask me all the time, how do I motivate my child? I said, find a curriculum they love, you're done.
Right.
And so why is Right Start fun?
Well, we don't make them drill, but to get the fun factor, because you still have to learn it, but to get the fun factor, we play card games. Remember the game, very simple example. Remember the game Go Fish, where you want
Oh,
the 2 to
yes.
match the 2, the 3 to match the 3. Mommy, do you have a 6? No, go fish. We're going to change it up and say the pairs are things that equal 10. So if I have a 3 in my hand, 3 needs a 7. Mommy, do you have a 7? Thank you. Okay, now I've got a 5 in my hand. 5 needs a 5. Mommy, do you have a 5? No, go fish.
Absolutely. And I
It's
would
a
also
work.
just add on to that. I think it's that in Right Start Math, kids are actually learning. I mean, I think kids enjoy learning. They enjoy solving concepts, and in a lot of times at school, they're memorizing and they're not told why.
Right,
So even if
right,
Right Start Math is challenging, children love learning. If something is
right,
challenging, they're actually learning new concepts. That's going to be engaging for them.
right. And that's actually an interesting point because a lot of times, a lot of math programs say, we're doing this because here's where it's going to be used. And that's good. You need to know where it's going to be used. But sometimes
Start.
you do it just for the sheer joy of it. Like the project I was working on last night, we needed to have it done, but I did it because I loved it. To me, it was just the coolest problem to figure out. And I liked it. It's just like my brain was just like, oh, yeah. I enjoy that. I enjoy the joy, the problem solving, the working with it. And
Absolutely.
that's what we need our kids to see is to have that joy in there, to have the delight, to have the, oh, I never I never knew that. That is so cool. That's what you want your kid doing. You don't want them walking around going, okay, flashcards, this is what I'm doing. No, I want them to have the fun and the joy and the beauty and the excitement of math. And it's there. And some people are like, yeah, no, it's not. It is. It really is there. And we started in level A, and it doesn't matter. Even if you come in level D, we've got review lessons, and then we're going to show you level D kind of focuses on multiplication, division, and a little bit starts fractions, but it shows you where and how this all goes together. And again, you use those card games for that practice, for that joy, for that fun. And so it's not just something where I'm in the corner doing worksheets. I'm playing card games with daddy, with mommy, with grandma, with, my sister. Sometimes, again, I got tired of playing the games in all honesty. So what I ended up doing is I'd tell the kids, go play against the dog. Tell me who wins. And
That
they loved it. Sometimes
so
I've even
fun.
had the kids do it right hand versus left hand.
Wow.
So,
Well,
yeah,
speaking, yes, continue.
yeah.
Wonderful. Well, speaking of joy, it has been an absolute joy having you here today. Is there
Well,
anything
thank you.
burning in your heart or mind that you want to share with people before we sign off today?
Share the joy of math. And even if you can't find the joy, find a way to give the children your joy. And another thing to make sure, even if you don't like math or you're uncomfortable with it, don't tell the kids. It's kind of like
Mm,
if you're afraid of spiders, you try not to be afraid of them so that your kids don't be afraid.
mm.
Share the joy or find the joy or put them in an environment so they can experience the joy that is math.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, if you do feel a lot of discomfort around math or hatred of math or whatnot, it's okay to be honest about that, but just be kind of aware of how that might impact your
Right.
child.
And
I mean,
how
it
it's
can be
being
used as an
perceived.
empathy
Yep.
point, like I
Yeah.
know that second grade math was really challenging. I also felt really frustrated in math, and so I've done research and I'm really excited about this new way of learning math. I think we're both going to
Yes.
enjoy learning it a
Thank
lot
you.
together.
Yes. Yes.
Yes,
This has been
yes.
wonderful. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank
This
you
has been
so much
fun.
for coming. As I said, I'm a massive fan, so excited and honored to be collaborating with you. Well, everybody listening, we're going to have the links to join Right Start Math in our show notes. I hope you'll
Yep.
use our link because we're an affiliate.
Yeah. Yeah.
We love getting that support from Right Start as well. So yes, thank you so much again, and I'm excited to talk to your mom and to continue this conversation. And
Yeah.
most of all, just thank you for such an essential and beautiful product you've put out into the world.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Manisha. And thank you for all that you do.